Hello everybody, this is the homework tutorial for Multiplying Fractions Worksheet A. As you can see, looking at the worksheet, it's pretty extensive. However, it does deal almost solely with multiplying fractions, which we know, after paying attention in class, happens just multiplying straight across. The numerator times the numerator to get our new numerator, the denominator times the denominator to get our new denominator. As a matter of fact, the primary focus will be on simplifying our answers. However, if you look on the board here, I haven't written a whole lot. That's because I'm not going to talk about a lot of this worksheet with you. I'm just going to expect that you can do it on your own and make sure you're simplifying things. I will, however, look at number 2 with you. It is what people notoriously call a word problem. Look, here's the deal. When you read through these things, it's important that you're underlining important numbers. But remember, the thing that I'm getting at with these word problems is that when we find a fractional part of another fraction, that word of really does imply that we are multiplying on these problems, okay? So after reading number 2, it does deal with this young lady named Sarah. She uses balsa wood, which is just a small type of wood that people use on model airplanes commonly. And the fact of the matter is that she has 7/8 of a yard left over, and there's this other young man, Sean, that would like to buy half of that strip from Sarah. You notice that I put the word of in bold here, and I've also written this on the board. Sean would like to buy half of this 7/8. Recall that of does imply multiplication. So it is very important, as a matter of fact, that we rewrite the problem with the operator of multiplication. Now you notice I used a dot instead of an X. Hey, either or will suit the job here. However, I do want to push us towards this dot because sooner than later we will be using X as a letter representing a variable or some sort of quantity that changes. Okay? So I look at this. Remember, like we've said, you multiply straight across. I have no problem telling you that the answer here is, well, 1 times 7 is 7, 2 times 8 is 6, 7/16, and it's important that we are labeling our answer. This was in yards, okay? We talked about yards of balsa wood. Now, I put a box around this because I'm designating this as my answer. Look, if you took the time to tune into this, I have no problem giving this answer up, as long as it's making sense to us. And recall that when you have a half, or when you find half of a fraction, all that happens is we double that denominator. This is the cause of doing so, because we are multiplying by 1 on top, which doesn't change that numerator. And we're actually taking the bottom times 2, or we're doubling the total amount of pieces if we think back to the farmland problem. Okay, hey, this being said, where people tend to get tripped up on this homework assignment is on the second part, where it states, it says, if Sarah paid $2 for each yard, for each 1 yard, how much should she charge Sean for the strip he buys? Remember, we did that brownie sheet pan problem in class, and we said each 1 pan of brownies costs $24, and if we buy any fraction of that amount, we pay that fraction of $24. For example, if we bought half a pan of brownies, we pay half of $24, which we would see is $12, and that just makes sense. Look, here's what I'm trying to point out here, and it's this. If 1 whole yard costs $2, Sean only wants 7/16 of that yard. Okay? So he should only pay 7/16 of $2. Now, for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to write 2 as this. And furthermore, if I'm going to multiply these two things, okay, it is much more helpful if I make this 2 into a fraction. Recall that making a whole number into a fraction is as simple as putting it over 1. At this point, I can multiply straight across, and it yields 14/16. Now, the interesting thing here is, what are we talking about? We were talking 7/16 of 2 what? $2. So yes, we do need to pay 14/16, but that's not very helpful if Sarah's going to charge Sean this. Hey, Sean, will you give me 14/16? So we need to determine how much money 14/16 is. So we need to express this as a decimal. And remember, to turn a fraction into a decimal, you need to divide the numerator by the denominator. And in this instance, I'd actually point out that this fraction can be reduced before even doing so. If you haven't noticed already, both the numerator and the denominator were even. Splitting those both in half, okay, would yield a new fraction. If we scale it down, it should be 7/8. Now, your job will be to take 7 and divide it by 8 and tell me what this is as a fraction. Okay? So he should be paying her 7/8. I have no problem telling you that, but we want it to make sense. Okay? Good luck on the rest of the homework.